Oklahoma City, AP, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt used his authority to spare the life of Julius Jones on Thursday, just hours before his scheduled execution that had drawn a widespread outcry and protests over doubts about his guilt in the slaying of a businessman more than 20 years ago. Stitt commuted the 41-year-old Jones's death sentence to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He had been scheduled for execution at 4 p.m. after prayerful consideration and reviewing materials presented by all sides of his case. "I have determined to commute Julius Jones's sentence to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole," Stitt said in a news release. A crowd that had gathered inside the Oklahoma Capitol in support of Jones broke out into loud applause and cheers after the decision was announced shortly after noon Thursday. Earlier Thursday, Jones's attorneys had filed a last-minute emergency request seeking a temporary stop to his execution, saying Oklahoma's lethal injection procedures pose a serious and substantial risk of severe suffering and pain to prisoners. The lawyers cited last month's execution in which the state's Pardon and Parole Board recommended in a 3-1 vote on November 1st that Stitt commute Jones's sentence to life in prison with the possibility of parole, with several members of the panel agreeing they had doubts about the evidence that led to Jones's conviction. Amanda Bass, a lawyer representing Jones, said the team had hoped Stitt would have fully supported the parole board's recommendation of granting Jones a chance at parole, but that they were grateful Jones wouldn't be executed. Governor Stitt took an important step today towards restoring public faith. Jones's looming execution, and Stitt's silence on his decision, prompted high school students across Oklahoma City to walk out of their classes Wednesday, and protests were planned Thursday in Los Angeles, Washington, Newark, New Jersey, and St. Paul, Minnesota. Prayer vigils were held at the Oklahoma State Capitol, and barricades were erected outside the governor's mansion.